Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Gather and Go, the podcast that helps you plan, promote, and lead better trips. I'm Brian Jewell. I am your host. I am feeling optimistic today. I'm excited to have you with me for this journey. And as always, my promise to you is that I'm going to do everything I can today to make this investment of your time worth your while. Today, I've got a really insightful interview with Elizabeth Whalen of Middle Tennessee State University. Elizabeth is a tourism educator. She's going to tell us all about how she and her colleagues are working to create a healthier pipeline for new tourism professionals. She's also going to talk about how the tourism industry can invest in next generation education and how you can connect with your Gen Z and Gen Alpha team members. This is a really great conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. First, though, let's start with some travel news you may have missed. River cruise lines are adding more land tour options. Several river cruise companies are introducing itineraries that add a full land component, going beyond the shorter pre- and post-cruise extensions that have long been common in the river cruise business. Uniworld has teamed up with sister brand Luxury Gold to offer river land itineraries, while Avalon Waterways has announced a slate of offerings with sister brand Globus. Ama Waterways, which does not have a closely related company that operates tours, has partnered with Mandarin Oriental to create river land packages. Riviera Travel, which already operates river cruises and its own tours, has expanded its inventory of combined itineraries. Now, Avalon President Pam Hoffey told Travel Weekly that a survey of nearly 10,000 Avalon customers showed that 51% are interested in taking 2-week vacations. Uniworld and Luxury Gold President and CEO Ellen Bettridge said many travelers were already, quote, combining river cruises with independent land stays before or after their trips. And she said the new packages help, quote, remove tricky logistics from that process. Well, now, before we move on, I want to take just a minute and share a little bit of news from us. If you are attending the NTA Travel Exchange in Tulsa this year in November, that's November 14th through 18th, I have an event to tell you about that we are really excited to bring you. It's called a Kentucky Nightcap, and it's something we're doing in partnership with our good friends from Louisville Tourism. It's on Monday, November 16th, after the Dine Around. That's part of the NTA schedule. Now, this is a resurrection of an event series that we have done for years and years at some different tourism events throughout the country. It's always been a blast. We're really excited to bring it back and excited to be doing it in partnership with our good friends at NTA and the lovely people at Louisville Tourism. So if you sign up for this, what can you expect? Well, after the Dine Around, you can come to this really fantastic venue we have picked out in Tulsa. Beautiful place. You're going to love it. There's going to be an open bar. There's going to be great entertainment. And I guarantee there will be the most fun people in the travel industry. I will be there. Some other folks from our team, of course, the great folks from Louisville Tourism. Now, this is a limited event and a ticketed event. There are only 170 spots open for this event because of the capacity of the venue. Half of them have already sold out. The cost is $50 per person. And know that money does not come to me. All the proceeds from this event do benefit Tourism Cares, which is NTA's preferred travel philanthropy. And so we're happy to be able to do some good with them. $50 a person includes everything. It's going to be a great time. So how do you register for this event? Well, you have to register for it through NTA Travel Exchange. So if you are planning on going to Travel Exchange and haven't started your registration is open. You can register for the event right now. And while you're registering to attend Travel Exchange, go ahead and tick that box to add on the Kentucky Nightcap registration while you're there. That's the easiest way to do it. And I have a feeling that spots are going to sell out through that regular registration channel. So I would encourage you to hurry up, get that registration in. If for some reason you registered for Travel Exchange and did not tick that box for the Kentucky Nightcap, but you want to attend, just let me know and we will make sure we get you in as long as space is open. So you can register at ntatravelexchange.com/register. I'm also going to put a link to that in the show notes. Don't miss this opportunity to hang out with me, a couple members of our team, and the great folks from Louisville for a really fun night in Tulsa on November 16th. Well, now it's just about time for us to move into our featured conversation with Elizabeth Whalen. As we do that, let me remind you, you can always find a most important wrap-up of the things that Elizabeth or any of our guests had to say in the show notes for every episode. Show notes are the text that lives right below the media player wherever you are listening to this podcast, and they're all on our website as well. You can access the index of more than 100 podcast episodes we have done at grouptravelleader.com/podcast. When the interview finishes playing, I'm also going to come back and hit some of the highlights of things Elizabeth had to say that I think are really meaningful for really all of us in tourism. And I hope you will stick around to the end of that wrap up, because when we're done there, I'm going to share a hard truth about tourism's workforce crisis. That's going to be the topic of today's Hot Minute. You won't want to miss that. We'll be right back with Elizabeth Whalen. All right, everybody. My guest today is an educator whose early work in restaurants, hotels, and even a dude ranch sparked her interest in how the travel industry develops leaders and creates meaningful guest experiences. Today, she's an associate professor and the program director of tourism and hospitality management at Middle Tennessee State University, where her research and teaching focus on preparing the next generation of tourism and hospitality professionals. Elizabeth Whalen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for this one.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. You have such an interesting career story. Kind of before you found your place in academia, tell us about, number one, I'm fascinated with dude ranches, so I have to hear about that. But kind of tell us how this work in hospitality roles led you to an academic career.
Yeah. So when I was, I know this is taking back a little bit ways, but it kind of sets everything up. When I was in high school, I thought I knew what I wanted to do. 16 and knew it all. Right. And I wanted to work for the State Department. I wanted to be a Foreign Service officer. And so I majored in anthropology with minors in French and Chinese and a whole bunch of other things. And I got to college and realized I had the opportunity to talk to some Foreign Service officers and realized that wasn't really the path I wanted to go down. And now what do you do? So I took some extreme measures. I actually signed up for the military. That's a whole nother long story. Oh, wow. I didn't actually go. Okay. That's a really long story. I'll leave that there. So sometime if you reach out to me, I'd be happy to tell you. But in the meantime, I'm always looking, okay, what can I do? Like, I can't just sit around and do nothing. And I had never really considered hospitality. But my first job was actually as a cocktail server at a bar, Molly's Pub. Okay. Just kind of your dive bar in a neighborhood. And at 20, it was very eye-opening. Because you're like, oh, it sounds so cool to be a bartender. And it was interesting, to say the least. Not for me long-term, but I learned a lot. And provided some other opportunities financially for me to do some experiences like study abroad. But then when I graduated, I was waiting for that military contract to come through. And I needed something to do. And so I had gone to Wyoming on a course when I was in school. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, I kind of want to live in Wyoming while I'm waiting for this thing to pan out. And they said, we'll hire you. Yeah. So I ended up on a dude ranch 60 miles from Cody and between the entrance to the northeast entrance of Yellowstone and Cody. So we were in the middle of nowhere. Wow. Like, most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. I absolutely loved living there, but it was extremely humbling. I had done 4 years of school. I was a 4.0 GPA. I was super academically inclined. And here I am. I'm the only hired employee of this small ranch, the Cape RZ, which I absolutely love and highly endorse and recommend. Family-owned place. And I learned a lot. I was the city slicker in the middle of Wyoming, but I got to ride horses every day. I got to hike every day. But I also did the jobs that no one else really wanted to do. So dishwashing sometimes 4 hours a day. I did the housekeeping. And when you have 8 cabins with 6 bunk beds and they're up in the mountains, there's no cart to take with you. So you're just carrying this load of stuff up the mountain to go clean these rooms. And sometimes I think I hit my breaking point when we had a college group staying with us. And so the rooms were full of these college students for like a month. And at one point I went up there to clean the rooms and it was just an absolute nightmare. And as I'm cleaning, I'm like counting down to the penny how much I'm making a minute because this is so hard to handle.
Yeah.
But it was really a wake up call, and I realized I was actually really good at it, and I enjoyed it, and I loved tourism, and I loved being out there, and I loved that life, that world. I did that for about 6 months. That was the only season it was open because it's in the middle of the mountains in Wyoming.
Right.
So when it's winter, it's not really open. But we did both tours in the summer and then hunters actually in the fall when it's hunting season.
Yeah.
So came back still waiting for the military to come through, and I started waiting tables at a restaurant. And I met my husband, which could have changed things a little bit.
Sure.
But also as soon as I started waiting tables, the general manager saw something in me and he said he wanted me to be a manager for him. But in order for me to do that, I would have to tell the military I wasn't interested because he didn't want to invest in training me if I wasn't going to be sticking around.
Yeah.
So I did that. And at the same time, I had already taken my GRE for education, and it just so happened that being in Houston, there was a really great hospitality program at the University of Houston. And so I applied in April, and they had a rolling admission, got in, started my master's degree, started managing for Papa's restaurants in Houston. Did that for about a year and a half, switched over to hotels. So let me see what the hotel world is like. I was an AGM for Drury Hotels for a year and a half, limited service property, about 120 keys. And said this still isn't the exact place for me. And I was graduating with my master's, and they offered me the opportunity to teach. And that was it. When you hit that part of your career, when you're like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I started as a lecturer, completed my PhD, and I've been teaching now for about 15 years. So I love it.
Well, what an amazing path. I want to talk to you about the pathways into tourism today because they're diverse, they are varied. Many of them don't go through an academic setting. And we have this big challenge in our industry of just not having enough people coming in interested in the work we do. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about the state of tourism, hospitality, education. How are we preparing people? How are we recruiting people? Is it working? Is it not working? What could work better?
Yeah. So the cool thing about hospitality education is it's over 100 years old. And I guess despite being older, a lot of people haven't realized it's been around, but there was a transition about 30 years ago, and it's an international field, right? So what we see in the US and what's going on in Europe and the Middle East and Asia, it's all development process. But in the last 30 years, it went from being vocational to professional. And that flip is really, really key because when we're in an educational setting, our goal is not to train skills, like hard skills. So we're not teaching them how to use a POS system or how to use Pegasus or how to make a bed. We are teaching them a tool set for moving up into leadership roles and for making good decisions. So how do we better the industry through education, through theory and then application? And so that transition over the last 30 years has been drastic, and it's been very, very crucial. But also that conversation has had to shift the way we engage with the industry and seeing the potential of these students. So when I moved into the Nashville market, I came here in about 2019. There wasn't a program at that point here in Middle Tennessee. And so it was a lot of conversations with industry partners or potential partners about what our graduates were. And so initially I would get calls of, hey, do you have a graduate for me to come work in housekeeping? And the answer would be no,
right? Because
they don't need me to get a housekeeping job. They don't need to get a 4-year degree for that.
Yeah.
But we're looking at that next step up. And so recruitment has been great. A lot, we're considered a discovery major here, that people are still finding out about this career and this industry of tourism and hospitality, which is what, 20% of GDP worldwide is in this industry.
Yeah.
And It's big business. It's applied business. It's a very specific niche. And a lot of times these programs are in business colleges. We require students to get a business minor, but then the service industry is just so unique that we get to specialize in that. And what we're also finding is that the expectations of this generation are so different. In the 15 years I've been teaching, it's to watch the transition has been wild, but this current generation is so different. And so it's a dialogue about expectations of industry, but also then in return, the expectations of these incoming students for the industry to maybe adapt. We came through in a time when I worked in the restaurant and the hotel, I very rarely saw my family. I worked every night, every weekend, every holiday. That was the expectation. 70, 80-hour work week sometimes, depending on how busy we were. Why do we have to continue that? So how can we adjust the expectations of industry to meet the expectations of students and vice versa? Because we are the fun industry, but not everything we do is fun.
Yeah.
So there are going to be times when we're doing jobs that are just not very fun. But also, one of the things I tell the students is that we are not too good for any role in this industry. So if we're not willing to clean a toilet, we're in the wrong place. Sometimes you're just going to have to, roll up your sleeves and do the dirty work and get it done. And so it's about managing expectations on both sides and then preparing them to enter into leadership roles with best practices, as opposed to coming out and not knowing any of the lingo or ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah. So tell me more about these students who are coming into tourism through the academic channel, because, as you mentioned, you don't need a 4-year degree to come up through, housekeeping or, back of house engineering, that sort of thing. So what can you tell us about the students that are coming to you? What has brought them to you, and what are the outcomes they're really hoping for, when they say, I'm going to major in hospitality and tourism?
Oh, that's such a great question. And the thing is, there's actually a pretty good mix. So when I was at Houston, we actually had a lot of international students because hospitality worldwide is perceived differently as a career opportunity. So especially in Asia, it's seen as a high-end career advancement opportunity, and studying the States is always highly desirable. Here in Middle Tennessee, we serve a very regional population. So we get a mix of those who are already working in the industry, non-traditional students who found that they've hit the wall. They can't keep advancing. It's taking so long to keep moving up. They're looking for that edge that helps them. And a lot of these high-end positions require a bachelor's degree. So why not get it in the field that they're interested in? But then our fresh students coming out of high school, or they're transferring from community colleges, they don't want a traditional job where they're sitting in an office 9 to 5. And I tell them, maybe someday in the future you'll want that. Guess what? We have that in hospitality too.
Right.
It might not seem like it, but we do have that. When you have a family, maybe you want that more normal schedule. But they want to be in front of people. They want to be engaging. They want to be interacting. But we also have students who are introverts, and they're trying to find a reason that the education has a direct ROI. Right? So that when they graduate, the investment they spent on this degree has a direct return immediately. That's something we sell to a lot of parents because they're questioning the value of higher education. And we tell them, well, when your student graduates, there's a world of opportunities, even if they're not necessarily ready for leadership right away.
Right.
The jobs are there, and we help them through that process. So we're seeing a lot of students who maybe weren't the best academically. They're like, I'm not an engineer. I'm not some of that, but I want this opportunity to move up. A lot of first-gen students, I find that the service heart, the heart to be in hospitality, comes from people who have had to work really hard. Most of our students work through the entire 4 years they're here with us because they have to.
Yeah.
Some of them worked in high school. And so we take that and we're like, okay, how do we move quickly for you? And so those students who do that will sometimes even graduate into regional manager roles at 22. I mean, they're making more money than I am, which I love. That's like one of my success stories. If you graduate and you're making more money than me, then we've done something right together.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this mix of people who are starting to discover that this industry is so cool and there's so much opportunity, and you're not bound. Say I start in hospitality and hotels, there's no reason I couldn't go into DMOs and tour planners, or I just had someone reach out. She does specialty event planning and tour arranging for country music stars.
Cool.
You can do that too. Like there's so many ways to take these skills and apply them in different segments of the industry.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm curious about these students who come to you already, part of the way into their career. They're working for a hospitality company, do those companies ever come alongside them and help with the investment, help with the resources? Or is it still pretty much like, yeah, you're on your own, kid?
It's a mixed bag. I'd say few and far between do companies do. It just depends. Like a company that does is Disney, but you have to grind your way through Disney to be able to get that reimbursement. We have some partnerships NTSU does with some local ownership groups. So, for example, local ownership group of McDonald's here, I think they own 4 or 5 different franchises. They will help pay for their employees to get degrees, but most of those are not in hospitality. I find that those who are in that kind of mid-level range of hospitality who are coming back to try to get that degree, there's very little support for them to get the degree because they're happy with where that employee is. But the great thing is being selective in the kind of school you go to. Here at MTSU, we're very affordable. There are other affordable programs. The ones that tend to not be affordable are your master's degrees. But that's like the next level up. So there is a great advantage in that too, because again, when you're hitting that wall and you're looking for how do I keep going? That's what it does. I would love for more companies to support their employees to go back to school, because one of the things we do is we do help try to train for best practices. So how can they come back to the workplace and put something better in place, improve the workplace, improve the community, and make a valuable impact? So it's not just here's your degree and now you're going to move off.
Right.
It's developing in the future of that leader.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, the before times, pre-COVID, there certainly was this sort of thing where the entry-level, frontline, maybe service roles turned over a lot. They could be hard to fill. But once you got into management, it was fairly stable. I would see the same people all the time at event after event, year after year. I loved that. But then COVID changed all of
everything.
That, right?
Yeah.
So of course there's still the frontline issue, but now the middle management, the leadership, the sales rep roles, they're kind of sitting empty in many places as well. And that's causing, just rolling disruptions in this industry that really is built on relationship and having somebody's phone number saying, I know I can text this person and get a quick quote on, whatever that is all kind of broken down. So there may really be some opportunities for a very hardworking 20-something who just got that 4-year degree to really kind of leapfrog right into one of those management or sales roles that we really desperately need filled. That's, I'm on my soapbox now. I'll step down and hand the mic back over to you. But one thing I'm always curious about is how the business community, the hospitality community can better plug in to what you're doing in the academic world to create better success for the industry, for your students, for everybody. You have some thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, that is one of the keys. It was interesting. I was just having a conversation this morning. It's a special case, but we can't exist without our industry partners, right? Yeah. We are nothing. If we are not graduating our students into the industry, we're failing. But it's not just at graduation that we need our industry partners. It's integrated in everything we do. So I have worked in the industry. I've worked in hotels and restaurants. I've worked in management. I've been in the grind. But that was 15 plus years ago.
Right.
I'm staying as up to date as I can, but part of that is through my industry partnerships. But that's only a small element because there's so much that we now talk about with experiential learning and engagement, but also mentorship and guidance. So some of the things that we do is we have this really strong advisory board, about 20 different people. I mean, I could add even more. There's so many partners who are willing to invest and give back to our program. But we meet and we talk about what is the industry seeing, what things need to be integrated into the classroom, what opportunities are there for the industry advisory boards to enhance those opportunities for students so that when they graduate, they are ready for those roles that you're talking about. Because if we don't prepare them correctly, that's when they're not ready. That's when they fail. They're in the role for 6 months and they leave because either it didn't meet their expectations or they're just not prepared for it. And so that looks like site visits. I had an alum, he took one of my classes. He wasn't even in hospitality. He was in fermentation science. And he took my food and beverage tourism class, which is one of my absolute favorite classes. And we were talking about whiskey tourism and trails and all of this. And he said, I am the head brewer for Leaper's Fork Distillery. I would love for your students to come out and see the property. So he brought out my students. He gave them a free tour. We got to talk to the general manager about the tourism and hospitality arm of that small distillery. They got to do a tasting. They got to engage with the industry in their place. So that was one. We also have a leadership seminar where we bring in 10 different guest speakers. I mean, we bring in guest speakers throughout the program. We probably have about 30 different guest speakers throughout the year in topics. But in that one, it's 10 different leaders from different segments of the industry who talk about what their career path looked like and how to then, or give advice on how to succeed. And I bring in recent alumni from our program who are successful all the way to end of career. And they're able to engage with them. They're able to, they're also required to do a networking assignment where they reach out to an industry leader that they recognize that they're interested in, and they interview them. So one of the things that I often have to move people from is reaching out for me just for recruitment, which we do want recruitment. We want opportunities for our students, and looking at how can they get engaged in that learning process for that program. So it's guest speaking. We have a mentorship program where we partner individual students to individual mentors. And the best partnerships are when that mentor really takes them on and says, hey, I'm going to this trade show, or we have this networking event, or we have this, why don't you come with me?
Yeah.
And so we have those kind of mentorship programs. We have guest speaking opportunities in the classroom. And then I've had a number of people reach out and say, I really think this topic is super crucial. And I said, well, we have a really small program as far as we just started in 2019. We don't have all the faculty resources. And he said, you know what? I want to create that class with you.
Wow.
And so I have one right now that I'm working with in sustainability, that she is the CEO of this really cool company, Justice Industries, that collects glass from hotels and then recycles it. She's helping me create a sustainable tourism class. Those kinds of ways to say, I think I can make an impact. Let me find a creative solution, an innovative solution of how I might integrate with the students more than just what are they giving me. So it's a partnership, right? It's not just, I need to fill these holes. I have a gap. I can't hire enough people. There's just not enough people who are trained. Well, okay, let's get in the training process. And by training, I don't mean how to use the POS. I mean, how am I developing them to understand networking? So like another example of this, we developed a class called Professional Development post-COVID because I realized a skill that was missing was actually networking and communication. Something that prior to that, I wasn't seeing an issue in. The catalyst for this is we had the Tennessee Governor's Conference on Hospitality and Tourism, which is a great conference. It happens every year. Yeah. And it happened to be in our town, Murfreesboro. And so I reached out. I worked really hard. I said, okay, every one of our students is going to get to go to this event for free as much as they want to go to. Wow. It was 15 minutes across town. No big deal. I had 2 students show up.
Oh.
So I came back to the students and I said, what happened? Why weren't you there? And they said, we were afraid. We didn't know how to go somewhere we had never been before. We didn't really understand what a conference was. We didn't want to go alone. I said, okay, we need to fix that. Let's develop a course.
Right.
So we developed a course in professional development. I also worked with TNHTA, which puts on the GovCon, and we started a new student ambassador program, very pointed. So now students from across the state in hospitality programs are hand-selected by TNHTA. They are sponsored to go to the conference, and they get opportunities to volunteer and network. And so like last year, one of the highlights for my students was getting to meet with the commissioner and talk to him about tourism in the state of Tennessee. So now we're being a little more pointed about how do we engage students meaningfully, even if it's one-on-one, with the students who are prepared and ready to do so.
Yeah, that is really wonderful work. Something related that kind of hits my mind is that it's really popular right now in some older segments of the population to kind of beat up on Gen Z a little bit. You've been working with Gen Z for a long time. You're probably close to having some of your first Gen Alpha students, if you haven't had some already.
We have Gen Alpha. Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what are the things that we need to know? Those of us who are, let's say, Xers and beyond, or even millennials, what are some things we need to know about some of those inherent soft skills that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are coming to us with that we can either leverage because they're really cool and we didn't have them growing up, or they don't have, maybe the experience on the telephone that we wish they did? How do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, and it's a challenge, in the classroom too. We're also seeing the challenges. They approach life differently than we do. And I think every young generation has, although I think this generation is more significantly different than previous generations of, it's just youth that will grow in time.
Yeah.
I think really the big hit happened in 2015. That was what the big shift was. And then since then, it's only grown more exponentially, especially post-COVID. They want things quick. They want something they can brag about. Everything is instantaneous. If it doesn't clearly show the advantage that they can brag about in some more sort of way, sometimes they get disconnected, but you can leverage that, right? So one of the ways I leverage that is by, rather than just saying, hey, here's an opportunity, anyone who wants to join us. I say, oh, if you're interested, you have to fill out this form. Just tell me that you're interested, and then I will hand select you. They don't need to know whether or not I pick all of them. I mean, maybe I pick every single person who applies, but now they've applied, right? Like they were selected.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of shifting the expectation. They're really creative. They approach things differently, but they also can speak to their peers in a way we just can't. I think very few people our age truly understand how to approach this next generation and really get them. So for example, we're trying to get more engagement within our program of more people to take advantage of these opportunities. And so I asked students, so we have student representatives on our advisory board, and we asked them, what are you looking for? And they said, a lot of times peer-to-peer communication has the biggest impact. So figuring out what those gaps are, I think also individuals are still individuals at the end of the day. And that when we have someone who comes in and then we're like, well, when I was your age, we were expected to do the grunt work.
Right.
And then we worked our way up. We can't start there. We have to start in partnership with them and say, I see potential in you. Let's figure out what your goals are. Let's see how we can make you grow. It's just this flipping of the mindset. You're still having them do the grunt work potentially, but how is that grunt work helping them? You have to connect the dots sometimes for them to help them see how that grunt work actually leads to leadership or even in some cases ownership or entrepreneurship or whatever it is that new employee is looking for, that next generation is looking for. And so, yes, they're different. Yes, it's a challenge. I think I think there's always going to be a challenge. I think Alpha is going to be very different than our Gen Z. We're already seeing some differences there. But a little bit of patience, a little bit of understanding. I think one of the biggest challenges is, ironically, it's not just Gen Z, but the canceling last minute is something you've seen with everyone post-COVID. Oh, you know what? I signed up for this event, and I'm sure people have seen this. You have an event sign up, 100 people sign up, and then 30 show. That's not just this generation, and yet we tend to pin it just on this generation. So the same skills that you might use for other things can be adapted to this new generation. And just asking them their opinion goes a long way, making them feel like they're part of the team.
Yeah. I feel like you're calling me out a little bit. I've signed up for probably half a dozen webinars since the beginning of the year. And I've watched a couple of the replays, but I don't think I've been in any of them live. So it's that is a good reminder. Some of these things are not just Gen Alpha things. It's just people things. Everybody's busier. Everybody's trying to do more with less. And, everyone's really doing the best they can. So talk to the tourism professional in, I don't know, Oklahoma or Kentucky or Connecticut who's saying, I love everything Elizabeth's saying. I don't think it is realistic for me to try to work with her in Tennessee when I'm half country away. How do those people find your peers at other higher learning organizations and begin to build some of these partnerships and maybe create that course in tour operation and things that probably doesn't exist yet?
Oh, that's awesome. So I think a rising tide rises all ships, right?
Yeah.
The better tourism and hospitality education is across the country, across the world, the better off all of us are. And I guarantee there's a program near you. Like I guarantee, in Lexington, there's Western Kentucky has a program, right?
Yeah.
So there are programs near you. And sometimes one email isn't going to cut it, just like in any other industry, right? So as an academic, I can tell you, it might not seem it on the surface, but we're wildly busy, especially during the semester. And then in summers, well, that's our vacation time. So it's like, what's the good time to reach out?
Right.
But it's about finding the right person at the right time. And so on all of their web pages, when you look up a tourism and hospitality program at local universities near you, you'll see a list of faculty. Handwrite individual emails, look at their profile because we put them online. Look at their profile, see what they're interested in. Say, hey, can we grab some coffee sometime? Can we chat? Different programs will have different structures and different emphasis. So you might if you know this, there's something called an R1 versus an R2 and vice versa. R1s tend to be really research heavy focused. So if you're at a research heavy focused school and it's a research academic, they might not be as interested in engaging with industry. Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
But it's about just keep trying those different channels, going to events, seeing what they're planning. And it might be reaching out to they might have a coordinator, right? So if they're a really big program, they're going to have a really big staff. And so you can look at their staff and say, hey, how do I get involved? What can I do? I'm ready. I want to speak. I want to see if I can have an impact. I'm really interested in this. I want to invite students out to tour our facility if you have a facility. I want to tell them about our tour operations. Whatever that looks like, sometimes it's just about finding that right person, like in any other thing, that's going to be willing to work with you and network. And sometimes just going to take a little bit of legwork.
Yeah, that's great advice. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you or follow you, learn more about what you're doing, what would you suggest to them?
So the two best ways is I'm always happy for an email. And even if you have a local school, I might know someone. I have a lot of contacts across the country. I'd be happy to connect you. So you can email me, and my email is ewhalen, WHALEN, at mtsu.edu. And then the other great way is I'm really big on LinkedIn. I post all the time on LinkedIn. It's something I exhibit, I try to demonstrate for my students how important that networking tool is. I've used it to cold message people for opportunities. I'm pretty sure that's how Brian and I got connected as well.
It is.
So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you. I'd love to see what you're doing, celebrate it, because we're really all in this together. I need you. Hopefully that I can provide something back to you in return. And we can really just help make this industry better and better every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all in this together. And we're going to link to those resources you mentioned in the show notes, so it'll be easy for people to find you. Now, before I let you go, we have some questions we ask everybody. These are just for fun, so no pressure. You can answer off the top of your head. When you book travel, are you booking a window seat or an aisle seat?
Oh, I'm always the window.
Yeah? For the view or for something to rest your head on?
For the view, and also I don't want to have to get up. Like I want my own little space so everyone else can be over there.
Do you also put in headphones so nobody bothers you?
Yes.
I do that too.
I'm an introvert at heart. I might be really good at the extroverted stuff, but I'm an introvert.
All right. So what is something in your carry-on that you wouldn't travel without?
A book.
Yeah. Just anything, whatever is on your reading list at the moment?
Yeah, whatever I'm reading at that time. Even if I don't open the book on the plane because maybe it's too short, or I watch the little TV or whatever, I need to know I have the book just in case I want to read.
And are we talking hard copies, or do you do digital?
Anything.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah, that's great. I have a book most of the time these days. More often than not, it's from the library. Because, I mean, what a great resource, so.
Love the library.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you do if you had a free airline pass and a week with nothing else on your to-do list? Where would you go?
Oh, no. I think my number one bucket list, and has been for a long time, I'm waiting for my boys to get a little bit older, but we want to go to Japan.
That's right up there for me too. Have you been?
I've not. So I spent time in China, but I've never been to Japan.
Yeah. Same for me. It's very high on my list. I feel like Japan is just surging right now in popularity. So
yeah. And so I want to get there before it gets too crazy, too busy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it are. But
yeah. Well, the last question is somewhat related. What's one thing you have seen or done on the road that you wish you could go back again and experience with somebody you love?
Machu Picchu.
That's pretty.
Yeah, I went by myself. Actually, I was teaching a course in Lima. We had a partnership, and we did a semester long online, and then I went down for a week of intensive courses, and then I attached a weekend. And if you've ever gone to Machu Picchu, it's pretty intense.
Yes.
You fly from Lima to Cusco, and then you have to get from Cusco to the train station to Aguas Calientes, and then you have to take the bus up to the top of Machu Picchu. And now it's very restricted. I went before it was restricted, but I would love to be there with friends and family.
I feel the exact same. I was there, I don't know, a year or two before I got married, and it was astounding. And it's one of those things where you're like, man, if I had somebody special, this sure would be the place to bring them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things, pictures just don't do it justice.
Yeah. They absolutely don't. Well, Elizabeth, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that conversation with Elizabeth Whalen as much as I did. And I hope you came away with some real practical takeaways. I want to take a minute and share a few of mine because I think they're important for all of us who work in tourism, whether you're interfacing with students or not. Now, when I asked Elizabeth about how she prepares students for real-world tourism work, she said, "One of the things I tell the students is that we are not too good for any role in this industry. So if we're not willing to clean a toilet, we're in the wrong place. Sometimes you're just going to have to roll up your sleeves and do the dirty work and get it done." And so it's about managing expectations on both sides and then preparing them to enter into leadership roles with best practices. I love this so much. Elizabeth is exactly right. If you are not willing to do what it takes to get the job done, then this is not the industry for you. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if I have cleaned a toilet in my tourism work in 22, 23 years, but I have spent a lot of time loading cargo and suitcases on and off of motor coaches. I spent a lot of time filling coolers with drinks on fam trips, schlepping it back and forth to the ice machine in the hotel, packing it on to the motor coach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was all, I don't know, like 15 or 20 years into my career. That is in executive leadership positions. That's in a time where many people would say, "Oh, that's not my job anymore. Find someone else to do that." Well, Elizabeth is exactly right. Whether you're training students or not, that is your job. I'm not saying you need to be spending all your time on the least skilled tasks in your organization, but what I am saying is that tourism is dynamic. There are lots of unexpected tasks that come up. And if you're going to be successful, you got to be willing to, number one, do the work, no matter what the work is. Number two, you need to model to the people you are leading that nobody is too good for the tough work. That's how you not only get the work done, that's how you transition those workers into leaders. And growing leaders is how your organization and our industry is going to thrive in the future. Now, when I asked Elizabeth about how the tourism industry can invest in the education system, she said, "I find that those who are in that kind of mid-level range of hospitality, who are coming back to try to get that degree, there's very little support for them to get the degree because they're happy with where that employee is. But that's the next level up when you're hitting that wall and you're looking for, how do I keep going?" She said, "I would love for more companies to support their employees to go back to school because one of the things we do is we try to help train them for best practices. So how can they come back to the workplace and put something better in place, improve the workplace, improve the community, and make a valuable impact?" She has said it's not just, here's your degree and now you're going to move off. It's developing the future of that leader. Again, I think Elizabeth is exactly on track here. One of the problems I see in a lot of young tourism professionals' career paths is they hit that sort of middle management tier and then have nowhere to go, or they don't know where to go next. And we could talk all day about what's causing that problem. One of the solutions to that problem is education. But once you're, say, in your 30s, especially if you have family obligations and things like that, it's extraordinarily difficult to go back to school and hold down your full-time job. So I would love to see more hospitality and tourism organizations find ways to make that happen for their mid-level people. And I understand not everybody can afford to pay tuition for their employees, but if you could at least find a way to let them have the time they need to go to class. Maybe they're working some at night to make up for that time, or maybe they're getting off an hour or two early a couple days a week so they can make it to a night class. Whatever you can do to invest in the future of that employee, you're going to be harvesting just an incredible amount of goodwill with them. In fact, there's a solid chance that if you make that investment in their training and education, it will actually make them more apt to stay with you in the future. Not only are you investing in their future and the future of their organization and your organization, you're investing in the future of our entire industry. And we all have to be willing to do that, or things are going to get difficult for all of us. And finally, when I asked Elizabeth how we can do a better job at connecting with our Gen Z and Gen Alpha teammates, she said, when we have someone who comes in and then we're like, well, when I was your age, we were expected to do the grunt work and then we worked our way up. We can't start there. We have to start in partnership with them and say, I see potential in you. Let's figure out what your goals are and let's see how we can grow you. She said, it's just this flipping of the mindset. You're still having them do the grunt work potentially, but how is that grunt work helping them? You have to connect the dots for them to help them see how that grunt work actually leads to leadership, or even in some cases, ownership or entrepreneurship. Well, again, I think Elizabeth is exactly right here. You know, when I was beginning my career, nobody ever really took the time to connect that entry-level work I was doing with what I may have been dreaming about for my future. People didn't really try to inspire me with a vision of where I could go. And I think that was just the reality of, growing up as part of Gen X. But if we have heard one thing over and over from experts in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it is this: these young people need to be connected to purpose. They want to know that their work makes a difference in the world. They want to know that they are creating a better and more sustainable future for the planet, for society, but they also need to know that the opportunities you're giving them now can connect to a meaningful future for them. So yeah, you're still going to have them do the grunt work, but you're also going to invest some time in vision casting for them. Help them see a future that they can get excited about. If they're excited about that future, it's going to make them more excited about the work they're doing today, and it's going to make them more effective for you. Great stuff there from Elizabeth Whalen. Well, as we've been discussing the tourism workforce today, it's got me thinking a lot about the workforce crisis that we have been confronting in tourism really for at least 5 or 6 years now. And it's got me wondering if we are in part to blame for that problem. And that is the topic of today's Hot Minute. Yeah, that's right. The Hot Minute is the portion of the show where I take 60 seconds to give you my unfiltered thoughts on an issue that impacts tourism every day. And today we're asking the question, is the tourism workforce crisis a problem of our own making? So let's put 60 seconds on the clock and get into it. We don't get to complain about a workforce we refuse to develop. As much as I love what Elizabeth and educators like her are doing, the fact remains that most people who come to careers in tourism aren't coming through university programs. Instead, the majority of your travel colleagues arrived by accident. That's how I got here. There's a good chance you did too. But I don't think we can keep counting on happy accidents. If we want a professional workforce, we need to take responsibility for building it. That means working closely with educators. It means creating inspiring career paths with meaningful compensation. It means giving people responsibility before we think they're ready for it. And it means investing in talent long term, not just extracting what we can from our team members before they inevitably move on. Tourism work should be exciting work. If people fail to sign up for it, that's nobody's fault but our own. Well, that's the Hot Minute. That's how I see things anyway. Of course, as always, you are welcome to disagree with me, and we can still be friends. And hey, whether you agree or disagree, we would love to hear from you. You can send your thoughts, questions, or your tourism origin story to podcast@grouptravelleader.com. I read every email that comes into that address. I really do love hearing from you. And hey, you never know. Your thoughts or ideas might just be the topic of the next Hot Minute. And while you're in the mood to give us some feedback, would you do me a big favor? Would you go to your favorite podcast playing app? And if you haven't already subscribed to Gather and Go, then do it while you're there. Also, while you're in there, if you could give us a rating and leave us a review, that would be a big help. And I'm so thankful to everyone who has done that already. My thanks as well to Elizabeth Whalen for joining us today. On the next episode, I'm welcoming back Stacy Berry of Share in the South. Stacy and I are going to discuss fam tour do's and don'ts. This is a great conversation. I'm excited for you to hear it. Until then, though, remember this. At the end of the day, we're all on this trip together, so let's make it a good one. See you next time on Gather and Go. Gather and Go is hosted and executive produced by me, Brian Schul. Our publisher is Mac Lacey. Our creative team includes Danya Simmons, Ashley Ricks, and Rachel Crick. Our sales team is Talisa Reck and Ashley DeLucia. To advertise on the podcast, call Talisa at 859-253-0455. Gather and Go is a production of the Group Travel Leader. For more information on our podcast, magazines, and events, visit us online at grouptravelleader.com.